What is up, guys? It's your boys No Shoes, and I'm back. I'm coming back with you for some draft league content. I'm super excited. I'm going to try to get back into the YouTube grind, little behind the scenes stuff. My computer actually, I was doing like I was going to try to do some like playthroughs and stuff, and I was trying to stream a little bit, and my computer just decided it didn't want to do any of that. It didn't want to do any YouTube stuff. I actually have had a playthrough recorded and I was editing it, and when the computer just crashed the first time, and so it quit allowing me to use that editing software, quit allowing me to use a second editing software, and so uh, I'm gonna try to bring you Draft League content. Draft League doesn't really hinder my computer as much, so we'll see how it goes, but I don't know. So, anyways, we're joined the Terminus Champions League. It's a new league. JLPC is there's a lot of IRL stuff with the mods working. Bunch of the mods got a new job, and a bunch of people, and it's just been really slow trying to get it back up. But I've been trying and trying and trying to get into a different draft league, um, but I didn't really. I was really struggling to get into one for a little bit, and then I got into TCL through somebody that I knew from JLPC, and now we've started it, and I'm super excited. I've been really excited to do Gen 9 draft. I've been really into doing competitive Gen 9 stuff, so maybe I'll be a little bit better at this. But joined the TCL, and I was looking, and I was really excited, and I started looking at mons that I wanted to draft and wanted to play with, and Iron Valiant was my number one pick. I really wanted it, really wanted it. And then I wanted Baxcalibur was number 2, and Palafin was number 3. Those were the 3 things that I really wanted. And they released like the tiering because this is a point-based system, which essentially means that we only get 120 points to draft up to 12 mods. You have to do a minimum of 10, but you can do up to 12. And so you'll see down at the bottom of the screen there, right to my right of my face, I'll keep a running tally of all the points that I have left as I go through the draft and explain my thought process and everything. But yeah, they released the tiers, and Iron Valiant was 20, but Palafin and Baxcalibur were both 19, and I was getting really excited. And then they released the draft order, and I saw I was 15th out of 16, and I was like, oh, I guess I won't be drafting any of those mons because those mons will probably go off pretty quick. And so I kind of took a step back and I was kind of really reevaluating my draft plan. And then the draft happened, and I started wondering, like, Lando T was the first pick. I mean, it's as it should be. It's really strong mon, really good. Iron Bundle went really early, but people were like shying away from some of the stuff, and I was like, ooh, I might get one of my pick of these mons that I want. And then Iron Valiant went off at like pick 13, and Palafin went right behind it at 14. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to get these mons. But then, lo and behold, Baxcalibur fell to me. So I picked it up. I scooped it up. Didn't even really think twice about it. Especially with the fact, so I had 15. Then there was the guy that drafted behind me at 16, and then it snaked back. So I ended up with the second pick of the second round. And so when I saw that Baxcalibur was still there, I scooped it up, and I was like, I know for sure where I'm going with Baxcalibur, and I actually spent more time trying to figure out where I wanted to go with the second pick than I did with the first pick. Baxcalibur, I mean, you're talking huge base attack of 145, really bulky with that 115 and 92, 115 HP and 92 defense. It's not very fast. It's not very specially good, but it's 87 is the super good speed tier for something that just hits so hard, and I can do so many things. Thermal exchange is its main ability, which when it's hit with a fire move, boost its attack, which is a free instant +1 attack, especially if you can catch them on. Like, that's not usually something that's going to bring some super hard heavy fire type damage. You can really use that to your advantage. Its biggest ability is Ice Body, especially currently. Like right now, it's got a huge buff with the Ice Body because it also got Scale Shot in the DLC, because the draft actually goes through the Teal Mask DLC. So in the DLC, Baxcalibur got Ice Scale Shot to help with that Ice Body, and to help boost its speed so that it doesn't have to run double dance. You actually have a move that that you can use to get +1 speed, and then you can run stuff like Swords Dance. You can run loaded dice sets. You can still run a banded set or a scarf set. So it's a really good Pokemon to use, and it's really hits hard. And I was really excited for it to get it. And like I said, I didn't wait very long to pick again. My next pick I picked was Galarian Slowking. This gave me access to chilling whatever. I think it's like chilling reception or chilling something that allows you to set up the snow, what's to a place of hail, and allows you to switch out immediately. And it gives me a poison type to help with the fairies that previously Baxcalibur would be weak against. This didn't really start my draft in a good position as far as my weaknesses. I have a whole list of weaknesses now between the two, because other than like the fairy type and the fighting type, I didn't really gain anything here between the two, and that was one of my biggest problems when I was looking through it. Was I was trying to decide, do I want to go Alolan Ninetales and do Veil Shenanigans, or do I want to do regular Slowking? And regular Slowking did a little bit for me, but not enough in some places. And ultimately, I just went with Galarian Slowking, G-King. So Chilling Reception allows me to switch in Baxcalibur immediately and get full use of the snow that's set up. Plus, I get access to Toxic Spikes. I get access to Taunt. I get access to a few other things here and there that just help support this team overall. And I try to clean up my draft a little bit later in the draft, and you'll see as I go through it and I start talking about it. But Galarian Slowking, it was a great value pick. I knew I wanted it, and I knew I was going to immediately get something to help Baxcalibur with Hail for that Ice Body ability, and that's just where I went with it. And then I had to wait. So then I had to go through the entire second round and then all of the third round. And so I started just breaking down this draft into 2 picks. You'll see that as everything comes through. I went 2 for 2 for 2 for basically the rest of the draft. It helped me with the whole picture, but just these are the mons that I want. And like I said earlier, I got a huge list of stuff: Steel types, Dragon types, Ghost type, all these things, Dark types, all these things that I had weaknesses to that I needed to shore up. And again, we had 120 points for a minimum of 10 Pokemon. And pretty much I just kind of settled in and I just said, I'm just going to get King Gambit. I'm just going to spend points and I'll deal with it later. And King Gambit did a lot for me. So it gave me access to Stealth Rocks. It gave me another huge attacker with 135 attack and 120 defense and 100 HP. So gave me another huge thing there. It did hurt the fighting weakness, but basically everything else: Steel, Ghost, Dragon, dark, weak, neutral, or help me shore up with all of those. It hurt me in fighting and it hurt me in fire. But again, I know that thermal exchange doesn't help me resist fire or make me immune to fire. But my opponents, I feel like, aren't going to be super, super, super like ready to use fire moves on me because of the thermal exchange. Because I mean, just as quick, I could get Excalibur in there. You could give me a fire move. Now I've got +1 attack. Drop a agility. I think Excalibur gets agility, or even just drop a scale shot. Now I'm a free. Now I've got free +1. Use another fire move. I'm +2, and then I can just go through and put a really big dent in your team. So I thought King Gambit was a good pick, and I basically, with this pick, decided that, hey, I'm just going to draft points. I'm going to use probably about 10 mons, and I'm going to be done with it. At the end of the draft, I tried to clean up a little bit and try to save points a little bit, but it just all was for naught. But I was looking through, and I was like, I really, really gonna need some mons under 10 points, and the lower end of the tiers. How they did Terra Captains was you could have up to 2 Terra Captains, but they couldn't equal more than 10 points total. And I was like, I'm going to have mons under 10 points. And so, like, I go back, this draft was done in 2s by 2s by 2s. What's something here that can help me now? And that was Kilowattrel. I made this my Terra Captain. I only used one. You'll find out later in the draft. I didn't end up the Kilowattrel was worth 9 points, and I didn't end up with a 1-point mon. I was going to try to save some points and get a 1-point mon, so I had the second Terra Captain. But I decided against that in the end. It just made more sense this way. But I really wanted this fast electric type to be able to outspeed things. I've been really excited. I've been watching Play More Sports, run by John Pokemon 7, or not Pokemon 7, but yeah, it's Pokemon. But I've been watching John's team use this mon. He didn't use it as a Terra Captain, but I am. The flying type for stab wing beats or stab air slashes. The ice, because I mean I'm running a small hell team here, so like there's gonna be snow up, hail, snow, whatever it is. So I can use Weather Ball there, Terra Blast, and then the steel is just to give me that added defense. That way, maybe King Gambit's not always the switch in there. I can Terra Steel in an early turn. But this also gives me a little bit more turning power. I get both U-turn and Volt Switch. I don't get defog, which is a huge problem. And it really, really stinks that this thing doesn't get defog. But it does give me a really fast mon with a really decent special attack. A 105 special attack gives me Volt Absorb, gives me Wind Power, gives me Tailwind Shenanigans if I want to go fast. Versus like Galarian Slowking has Trick Room Shenanigans to help me there. So I'm really, really just trying to put pressure on what am I going to bring each week at this point. That was kind of the goal with this pick, was to just keep my opponents wondering, what am I going to bring each week? Am I going to go faster and do setup Excalibur? Am I going to go slower and use Trick Room and let King Gambit or Excalibur just run through you with a band or something? And like I said, I knew I was going to need something in the lower tiers, and I have so many picks. I think it was like 30-something picks before I drafted again. I knew this thing wouldn't be on the board after round 4, maybe into round 5, but not by the time it got back to me in round 5. So I just scooped it up here, and then I went back to my strategy of high point picks, and I picked up Conkeldurr. Now you may be wondering, why am I picking up Conkeldurr? Well, Conkeldurr does a big thing for me that nothing else on my team does so far, and that's defog. somehow or another, the Kilowattrel doesn't get defog, but Conkeldurr does. Conkeldurr's also in that slower tier, so if I want to be a Trick Room, you gotta worry about it. It has Guts, it has Sheer Force, it has Iron Fist. It gives me Knockoff, which is something that I hadn't had at this point. Gives me Bulk Up Shenanigans. Another good taunt user. Unfortunately, it is physical, which means I'm building a really, really physical team. 140 base attack. Attack and 100 HP, 105 HP, excuse me, 95 defense. But I knew I needed the defog. I didn't want another flying type. And this thing kind of round that up for me. It gives me knockoff. So again, I could run choice banded knockoffs and disrupt some teams there. This was just a really solid pick for me, I think. It was really, really pricey for it, but I think it was like 12 or 13 points. But I think it was worth it. And then I had my next pick a few picks later, where I also went out and I got Vikavolt. Another Mon I dropped below the tier list, but with the way I was building my team, Baxcalibur's at 87, King Gambit's speed tier is 50, which isn't super great, but it's not bad. And I wanted to bring in something, which is another thing that I could do, which is sticky webs. I mean, it's something that my opponents don't know what to do with, because again, I could bring Trick Room, I could bring sticky webs, I could go set up Excalibur and just try to outspeed everybody. But I went and I brought in Vikavolt. Again, another Mon that used to have defog, that lost defog, so it dropped in points. It was only 7 points. So it was a lower tier, so it helped me keep drafting really high Mons whilst also getting something to help me out there. But yes, another Volt Switcher, so I can Volt Switch around. I could just throw a Scarf on it, Sticky Web this turn, come in and just Volt Switch and phase to keep momentum up and keep the Sticky Webs up. I'm really excited to use it. I've used it semi-successfully in the past. So really kind of excited to use it. Matter of fact, I think in the last draft I had it was my Dynamax captain and JLPC. But and then I had to wait another 30 picks. And then I was starting to worry because I had a fire weakness that I hadn't solved. My fairy weakness was back because I drafted Conkeldurr. So I had a few weaknesses coming in here. And I didn't know really what to do. So I got Derpy. I got Quagsire. Water Ground. Great typing. Only weak to grass. Good special Mon here. Good bulky Mon here. Gives me access to every single hazard. Rocks, spikes, toxic spikes. All of those hazards. Have access to those. Can also be a secondary setup. Hell with the snow with the snow skate. Another Mon that I wasn't really happy that I had to spend so many points on. It was only worth 10 points. I could have used it as my Terra Captain, but really I feel like I'm going to be using this thing more defensively. And if I'm going to be using a defensive typing, I want it to be the water ground typing. I don't want to have to change it into a single typing because that just gives it more weaknesses. Whereas something like Kilowattrel loses weaknesses in most cases when I tear it. So, just a really solid Mon overall. Really excited to use it, and I think it really helps my team out, having access to all the hazards and all that. But I kind of doubled back, and I went back kind of faster, and I got Grafai, Prankster Mon, spent some money on it, spent some points on it. but it's Prankster Mon. Gives me access to things like Parting Shot. Still can use U-turn or Baton Pass. I think it gets Baton Pass. I don't think it gets U-turn, but it gets Baton Pass. Gets Parting Shot. So great ways to maneuver out, get some momentum here. Another knockoff Mon. Like I said, it's Prankster, so Prankster Toxic. Sadly, it doesn't get Thunder Wave, but it does get a few other things that will be beneficial through Prankster. And just having that poison typing doesn't give me Toxic Spikes access anymore, but having that poison normal typing, the normal being super good for ghost types that want to come after Slowking, just switch in. There's a bunch of Mons out there that are super good ghost types. Gengar, Spectrier that my team doesn't really want to deal with right now, that I wanted to make sure I had access to. And then with my last two picks, I had 25 points left, and I was like, I could either salvage something and spend a little less points, or I could go big. And I just chose to go big, and I just chose to spend it on a Melodic. Melodic is a huge defensive mon, huge issue for a lot of people, and really gives me a good bulky mon to pair with Quagsire, to pair with Galarian Slowking. Marvel scalability, great. Competitive is okay in Draft League, but gives me more access to Toxic. I think it gets Flip Turn, I'm not for sure. And it's not really all that bad speed wise for a bulkier mon at an 81 speed tier. So I felt like Melodic just brought a lot defensively for me to help me out here. So I was really excited when I got to pick it up. And then I was looking again. Like I said, I tried to maneuver myself out of having to spend all my points at once. But ultimately, I decided against it, and I just picked up Zarude. Ghost Dark typing, really big. And at the end of the day, there's only very few typings that overall my team doesn't like. Zarude gives me access to Knockoff, gives me access to Taunt. More U-turn capabilities. It's a decently fast mon at 105, so it helps with that. Because I went 125 with Kilowattrel, 110 with Grafai, and now 105. I really struggle between Baxcalibur and Zarude. But, again, that's something Sticky Webs and Trick Room you want to be really careful with at some junctures. Excuse me. I was trying to hold that in and I didn't make it. But again, my team ends up being really physical, 99 average physical offense. But I really like how the team turned out. I think there's some changes that I need to make, but I almost made some in the grace period. The problem was all the things that I really thought this team needed, I couldn't really get. Like when I was putting out stuff, trying to get some advice on what to do, somebody said to get a fairy type, and I was like, the fairies aren't really that great that are left. Most of the fairies are actually gone. That would be really good, and they're all that are left are like mid and pre-evolutions. So it gets really hard to actually find one that's really got some value in it. But I really like that I have a lot of Volt Switch, U-turn, phase momentum mons here. I think Grafai is going to be a really big piece this season, trying to with the parting shots and the top prankster moves. But yeah, I really hope this season goes well. I'm really excited, and let me know what you think of the team below. Check out everybody. All their descriptions for all their YouTubes are going to be in the description below. And you guys next time for week 1. Later.